Hello and aloha pa, the Baha'i friend. Let's see, what time is it? At 6 minutes past 10 on Sunday, July 28. My name is Abbas Tamori. I haven't been on these videos for a long time. Recently I had a big scare. I was feeling a lot of pressure in the heart area. So after a few times to emergency, they decided to do an angiogram. And they found out 70% of my left-hand side artery, I think, the main artery of the heart, is blocked, 70%. So I don't know how much time do I have. But there are a few things that I had to say to you, and so I'm beginning with this first one. It's almost like my will and testament. If I couldn't survive this, we have to see what does Baha'u'llah wants from me more. I'm going to be talking about this subject that has been one of the biggest obstacles for many of you to understand my station and what I say and what my message is. And it basically revolves around the saying of the Baha'u'llah in a tablet, which Shoghi Effendi confirms it as well. It is regarding the member of the universal laws of justice. So let me just actually read the quote and then we're going to be talking about it. I think it is in the page World Order of Baha'u'llah, page 153. Shoghi Effendi saying this, quoting from the Baha'u'llah's word here as well. God will verily inspire them with whatsoever He willeth. This is the word of Baha'u'llah regarding the member of the universal laws of justice. So continuing, God will verily inspire them with whatsoever He willeth is Baha'u'llah's incontrovertible assurance. They, and not the body of those who either directly or indirectly elect them, have thus been made the recipient of the divine guidance, which is at once the self, the lifeblood, and the ultimate safeguard of this revelation. So this is very big, because Baha'u'llah says the member of the universal laws of justice will be inspired by God, and Shoghi Effendi confirms that and says they, not the house itself, they will get divine guidance. On the top of that, you also know universal laws of justice is infallible because this divinely inspired people, member, are actually part of it. I remember probably 10 years ago or even more, I was in Toronto talking to David Rossetti, a very good member of the Baha'i community in Toronto. He's a professor in the UFT. And I was saying that I have difficulty, Abbas. He didn't know that, I've been cast off from the Baha'i faith. I've been excommunicated. He didn't know that. That's why he was talking to me. He said that I have difficulty to understand that just by mere election, 9 people go to universal laws of justice and they simply become infallible. I'm accepting it because Baha'u'llah says so. I take it by faith, but I don't understand how is that working. So few anyways, they tell me, Abbas, what are you saying? Who are you here? If these member of the universal laws of justice, by direct quote of Baha'u'llah and confirmation of Shoghi Effendi, are inspired by God. What are you saying then? Who are you here to dispute with the universal laws of justice, to say things are not right? As much as we like you, we think you are a genius, but you have a serious flaw because you do not accept this and you don't understand this. Well, this is the reason I'm going to clarify this for you. I've been always thinking myself that all these 9 members of universal laws of justice, if they're inspired by God, why there are 9 of them? If somebody is inspired by God, why there's 9 of them? These 9, they're not going to agree with each other all the time. So then probably some of them are wrong. We know in the writing, Shoghi Effendi says, it's written in the Baha'i writing that Shoghi Effendi, the guardian of the cause of God, if he was there at the time of universal laws of justice, has the power to send them out. Abdul Baha simply says, if they are injurious in the Will and Testament, if they're injurious to the cause of God, they will be expelled by Shoghi Effendi. So this made me to think we have to get it deeper into what it is. This is a word of Abdul Baha, and then I just said Shoghi Effendi says that too. But the question that I'm asking you, and I've asked myself, sure, the member of universal laws of justice are inspired by God, as Baha'u'llah says, and as Shoghi Effendi confirms, but it doesn't say how. How is this guidance comes upon them? How do they get inspired? Is it hocus pocus, or there is some scientific, logical reasoning behind this? There is. This guidance would come through the Shoghi Effendi, the guardian of the cause of God. Let's see. First of all, this is the word of Abdul Baha about, let me look at these papers. Word of Abdul Baha about the member of the Universal Law of Justice, which is in the Sum and Suit questions. He says, now the member of the House of Justice are not essentially infallible as individuals, but the body of the House of Justice under the protection and unerring guidance of God. This is called conferred infallibility. Some uncertain question. This isn't there. So it says that members are not essentially infallible. But if God wants, as Baha'u'llah says and Shoghi Effendi says, these are the only people in the among the Baha'is that they are getting this guidance. But the source of guidance and how this guidance comes, it comes through Shoghi Effendi, the guardian. And he says, if I find that in some place they made mistakes, let's take a look at this one too, because he says that too. This is what he says, Shoghi Effendi says, though the guardian of the faith has been made the permanent head of so august a body, can never even temporarily assume the right of exclusive legislation. Shoghi Effendi cannot legislate by himself. He has to use the other members. He cannot override the decisions of the majority of his fellow members. But he is bound to insist upon a reconsideration by them of any enactment he consciously believes to conflict with the meaning and the and depart from the spirit of Baha'u'llah's revealed utterances. Page 150 in the World Order of Baha'u'llah. So it is possible that Shoghi Effendi will find there are mistakes. There are things that they do, Universal Law of Justice as a whole and the members, that they could make mistakes. He is there to guide it. So this is what I found. Shoghi Effendi is gone. All we all know all of it, including Mason Remy knew it too. He was a part of it. He did not appoint anyone after himself. That's it. So the divine guardianship, which should be appointed by Shoghi Effendi, is being finished. He was the first and the last. So the Baha'is, they say, what's happening right now? The answer is very simple. He did not appoint an individual to be his successor. He appointed an institution to follow this responsibility, which includes guidance for the members of the Universal House of Justice. That's one of the things they do. So where is this writing? Let's find out. This is what it says. This is in a book. It's called Toghiyat Mubarakeh, printed in 1992 in Germany at Baha'i Verlag. This book is a compilation of the Persian message of Shoghi Effendi from 88 to 113 of the Baha'i calendar, in which he says the following in the page 562. You can take a look at this writing here in Persian. And this is its translation that I have made. And I'm going to do it. You can ask the Baha'is, anybody, a Persian, you can do it. This is what he says. At the precinct of these two lofty buildings, which is the Baha'i Archive and the seat of Universal House of Justice, and these two mighty pillars, another building, which is the House of Guardianship, but in the bracket, Darul Velayah, the House of Guardianship, and the center of the interpretation, explanation, and commentary of the Holy Text, in confirmation and complementation to the legislative arm, gradually shall be erected. So these guidance that we are thinking, Baha'u'llah says he will be guiding the members of the Universal House of Justice and the House of Justice, is through an institution. God does not, some kind of a, hocus pocus movie is sending these guys messages. No, it comes through an institution. And he calls this institution the center of interpretation. But I, confronted this with the counselor at Universal House of Justice at the time, some 30 years ago, 27 years ago. They sent it to me. He asked me that, I had to explain it to him that this is the institution, this is a building has to be built. He said, well, there is no Shoghi Effendi, there is no guardian, therefore this building cannot exist. I said, my friend, look at it. It says center of the interpretation. It doesn't say the center of the interpreters. A guardian would be an interpreter. Such thing doesn't exist in the Bible. An infallible interpreter, an authenticated interpreter does not exist. But an institution is out there to do the same job. Now there are people that tell me that, all right, another institution. So what is that going to do? There are other problems. If you don't want to do it properly, as many institutions as you have, it's not going to do the job. I have an answer for those guys. These are all in the writings. I numbered it here. So let's say we don't have this institution. I got 3 quotations. Shoghi Effendi, page 162 of the World Order of Baha'u'llah. No missionary falling short of the standard inculcated by the Baha'i revelations and the variance with the sublime pattern ordained in his teaching, which the collective effort of mankind may yet devise, can ever hope to achieve anything above or beyond that lesser peace. If we don't have, it says, if there's anything short, never mind the institution of government, anything is short of what is revealed, it's not going to do the job. Okay? Continues on that same page 162. So the most great peace, on the other hand, is conceived by Baha'u'llah, a peace that must inevitably follow as the practical consequence of the spiritualization of the world and the fusion of all its races, creeds, classes, and nations, can rest on no other basis and can be preserved through no other agency except the divinely appointed ordinances that are implicit in the world order that stands associated with the holy name. We don't have this institution, we will not achieve our goal. But there is some damning, really some damning consequences. This is my problem. Again, this is in the World Order of Baha'u'llah. Shoghi Effendi says, without such an institution, integrity of the faith would be imperiled. The integrity says is going to go. And the stability of the entire fabric of the would be gravely endangered. Its prestige would suffer. The means required to enable it to take a long and uninterrupted views over the series of generations would be completely lacking. But this is the main one. And the necessary guidance to define the sphere of the legislative action of its elected representative would be totally withdrawn. This elected representative of Universal House of Justice, they need a necessary guidance that would have to come through the institution, Universal House of Guardianship. Without it, they are not guided. This is how the guidance of Baha'u'llah, of God, goes to the member of Universal House of Justice through this institution. I'd like to read it again. And the necessary guidance to define the sphere of the legislative action of its elected representative would be totally withdrawn. This member of Universal House of Justice, without this institution, they're not guided. They're not. The faith is endangered. And they keep saying that Shoghi Effendi didn't have it. This is not about the Shoghi Effendi. It's not about his successor. He's talking about a building called Dar al-Walaya in Arabic, translated, extrapolating from the translation of Shoghi Effendi, would be called Universal House of Guardianship. He says this is not the center of anybody. It's not a center of interpreters. He says the center of interpretation. And if it is not existing, these members of Universal House of Justice do not have the necessary guidance. I like you Baha'is, try to think, okay? Try to think over this and contemplate over this. Ask the Baha'is in the world to answer. Me, I'll tell you this right now. Ignorance has a limit. This is so simple. Either these people, they're ignorant, well, the matter is clear. If they have an explanation, they don't talk to me, but ask them. What is the explanation of not having this building? What is the explanation? Because without it, there is no faith. Baha'i faith is in danger. The entire fabric is gone. There is no universal laws of justice. There's no Baha'i administration. There's no world order of Baha'u'llah. And Shaykh Effendi says, without the world order of Baha'u'llah, Baha'i faith cannot operate. Because that is its divine means to get there. This is the ark. You don't have this. This product will not be delivered to mankind. Without it, it's impossible. So, others have told me that, all right, what you're saying that we heard. But, honestly, so there is no institution of guardianship. They don't want to have it. What's going to happen? What has universal laws of justice not done? What mistakes they have made that you think they have? I tell you, there's lots of them. The very first one, that is the freedom of the expression of individuals. These guys, they don't recognize. They're worse than Donald Trump. They're worse than Ayatollah in Iran. This is the problem. Faith relates to God. Those who represent him, they want to be like God, dictator, but they're not God. Therefore, their dictatorship is incorrect. The number one is that the freedom of the people. Shaykh Effendi, again, this is not by administration. He says, and I quote, "Let us also remember that at the very root of the cause lies the principles of the undoubted right of the individual to self-expression. His freedom to declare his conscience and set forth his views. If certain instructions of the masters are today practically emphasized and scrupulously adhered to, let us be sure that they are but provisional measures designed to guard, to protect the cause in the present state of the infancy and growth until the day when these tender and precious plants shall have sufficiently grown to be able to withstand the unwisdom of its friend and the attack of its enemy. Let us also bear in mind that the keynote of the cause of God is not dictatorial authority, but humble fellowship, no arbitrary power, but the spirit of frank and loving consultation. Nothing short of the spirit of a true Baha'i can hope to reconcile the principles of mercy and justice, of freedom and submission, of the sanctity of the right of the individual and the self-surrender of the vigilance, discretion, and prudence on the one hand, and the fellowship, candor, and courage on the other." What have I said that these guys, they call me covenant breaker? My friend, ignorance has a limit. If they don't know it, I have been telling them so many years. I have written 20 books about the writing of the Bab because it's necessary. In Iran, they might create a Babi faith. I had to write all those books. The writing of the Babis, none of the Baha'is, no one in the planet knows how to read them even. So I sent 6 of them to the Universal Laws of Justice. I paid $350 to send it to them. They did not receive it. To just send it back. They didn't even open it. They didn't want to do anything with it because my name is on it. Therefore, I have to tell you, my friends, these guys, they lack the guidance, the necessary guidance. As a result, in the course of time, they lost their faith. They're not Baha'is anymore. With this kind of friend who wants enemy. Okay? Because ignoring this building, out of the 5 building, you say that you want to kill the Baha'i faith. What else should I think, you know? because this is where he's leading based on the writing of Shoghi Effendi. Therefore, these guys, in course of time, they lost their faith. Not all of them, but those few that are sitting there, they're just as bad. How come they don't rise and say the fact? What unity? Hiding it from people, not telling it. So, universal laws of justice is an institution of Baha'u'llah. But this is not that universal laws of justice. It's incomplete. It cannot operate without having the necessary guidance, which is this universal law. So, we have been sending these talks to them about that. They told me that 27 years ago, that I am misguided about the elders. I've put these things before to you. I have it all there. If somebody wants, email me at guardianship@rogers.com. I would, send those documents to you. And we asked them, so that's great. I'm misguided. Could you please guide me? Let me know. I will oblige. They told me there is only 4 elders left to be known, not 5. I said, really? I said, yeah. I said, there's a formula in the Baha'i faith. The last word, what's count? The Baha'u'llah says a word at the beginning of his prophet, and the last word, it cancels the first one. Abrogate it. Baha'u'llah says there is a difference between my word and those of Baha'i Texts of Abdul Baha. The last word about these elders come from Shoghi Effendi in the light of guidance, and he says there was 5. How do you guys to come and say it is 4? He says in the light of guidance regarding the 4 and 20 elders, as Master has stated in tablet, there are the Bab and 18 letters of living and 5 others who will come in future. So far we do not know who these 5 others are. He says, I don't know it myself. I would have told you that. They're not here for me to name them. But he says they'll come. So it's 5. These guys, they said, no, it's 4. Why is that? They said, beside the Bab and his 18 letters of the living, which makes 19, there was another one chosen by Abdul Baha who built the Baha'i temple in Ashgabat in Russia. So that makes it 20, therefore there's 4 left. So, what is the answer? Why then is Shoghi Effendi says 5? They said there must have been a wisdom in Shoghi Effendi not letting the people of the West to know about this. What is this that the people of the West should not know? This is discrimination. How would Shoghi Effendi discriminate American Baha'is with the Iranian Baha'is that doesn't want them to know, like he's hiding basically? Think the Americans, they don't have the capacity to know there is a 20th elder. It's irrelevant. This word is bullshit. Pure BS. Discriminating against the Baha'is by Shoghi Effendi, because that's what is tantamount to that, isn't it? But I told them, sure, there was a 20th, but you don't know one of those 19, he rejected Baha'u'llah. He left, so one left, one came in. Still there's 19, and his name is Hadi Ghazvini. You English people can go look under the word Hadi Ghazvini in the Baha'u'llah's book, Epistle to the Son of the Wolf. He says right there to Hadi. But there are other tablets in Persian. It's in one of the Baha'i lexicon. It's called Asrar al-Asar under the name Hadi Ghazvini. It's like an encyclopedia. Baha'u'llah says them, thou hast taken Baal as your God. Because he went towards Azal, the enemy, arch enemy of Baha'u'llah. The man was not even a Baha'i. How do you count him as one of the elders? Because if you say there is 4 left, then you have to count this guy as one of the Baha'is as well, as one of the elders as well. This fellow left the faith. Baha'u'llah cast him off. He himself actually left, gone. He's not known as a Baha'i. Never mind to be an elder. Therefore, he's gone and one came. Still there's 5. Example. Then they themselves say that, universal laws of justice, they say that the writing of the Shoghi Effendi is a statement of truth that cannot be varied, which means they can't change the writing of Shoghi Effendi. But Shoghi Effendi said there has to be a Darul Balaya, House of Guardianship, the third building. They changed it to the International Institution of the Baha'i Research. Isn't this changing the word of Shoghi Effendi? This universal laws of guardianship is parallel to universal laws of justice. Universal laws of justice cannot rule over them. They can't. They're an independent institution. They provide guidance, they provide the interpretation, they say what is the meaning of the writings. Provide these things for universal so universal can legislate without mistakes. So then, there you go. They go against their own word. And it is written again many places. Among the prerogative that has been shared between universal laws of justice and Shoghi Effendi, one of which is not the interpretation. That's exclusively to Shoghi Effendi. Saying this, then they go interpret the writing. It says Shoghi said 5, but it's 5 means 4. Because he didn't want the Baha'is in the West to know about this. There must have been a wisdom. That's dumb for a wisdom. Shoghi Effendi is discriminating between the Baha'is in the world, that some of them are stupid, they should know certain things. That's blasphemous. That's ridiculous. Okay? So, as I told you, there are many, many mistakes like this they have made. I call them universal laws of contractors. All they do is buildings. They have no idea what to do. So what do we have to do about this? My job as a person, I'm the elder of Baha'u'llah. I'm not going to tell you everything about who I am. You don't need to know. But based on what Bob says in his writing, he says, I go, but he will bring another one after me. And if necessary, another one. Necessary, another one. Till the will of God is established. In the book of Bayan, in Arabic Bayan, on the very first few pages, he says, up to 152 years, which is in his language equal to the 8th unit of Bayan, you are on the path. And after that, you will be going astray. 152 plus 1844, it makes it 1996. That is the year I have been cast off, excommunicated. So far you understood, their mistakes are big. Not accepting this institution, therefore they're lacking the guidance to do anything. Then they're basically killing the Baha'i faith. This can't be the action of the Baha'is. These are enemies of the faith. Only enemies of the faith will do something like this. I'm not expecting anything by saying these things. But I'm a Baha'i. I must have the freedom to express what I think is there. But you barred me. And you called me a covenant breaker. They would not allow me to go to the wedding of my daughter. They threatened her, if your father comes here, she will lose her Baha'i administration right. She told me, Dad, what do? I said, I don't come. That's okay. I don't worry about it. So, I'm done with this. So you got the answer. Short answer. Shoghi Effendi did not choose a person in his place, but he chose an institution to carry out the responsibility. Just like universal laws of justice. They carry out the responsibility of enactment, but they're not prophets of God. As an institution, Baha'u'llah is allowing that to be done. It's conferred upon them. Same as the institution of guardianship. They will interpret the writing without getting rid of the old ones. They confirm the interpretation of Shoghi Effendi and Abdul Baha and continue after that. And they're not called also interpreters. And there are 5 women. This is the only thing that I have decided, that they have to be women. Nobody else. Women in the institution of guardianship, men in there. Why? Because it's like a father and mother of the world, and because the matters of the faith can become very personal. They must sometimes talk about a father who raped his daughter. Many people are not of the same sex, are not feeling good to be in the same room to discuss about these things. This is why, because it's so personal, Baha'u'llah separated them to different houses. And universal laws of guardianship works based on the principle of the Baha'i faith. Faith has to be according to the science and logic. So all the scientists, they're working with the universal laws of guardianship, and they interpret what is according to them wrong or right. And universal, based on that, they bring up and say that this is a law or not. But I've said before, and I tell you that right now, having formulated such a thing and melding 2 houses, it seems not necessary right now, because we're not in any position that we need that. In my opinion, both houses, man and women, they have to have a joint meeting at all times, unless a necessary time comes where the faith is in danger. When then the 2 houses separate, women say this, interpret, and men come in, and they say make a law in order to save the faith. Until then, they don't need to. Joint session is good. 5 and 9 all means 14. 14 also means Baha. Baha itself is 8, but at the end of Baha there is a letter in Arabic they call Hamzeh, which looks like 6. Baha'u'llah says that 6 is also plus 8 makes it 14. Therefore the name like Jawad or Wahhab also refers to Baha'u'llah. Okay, I'm done, people. I'm going to talk after this about my guidance, because this is not done. I've thought about what the universal laws of justice, what the Baha'i faith has to do. I formulated about 9-10 recommendation, which we have to do it. Allahu Akbar. Good night.